Hey guys, Dan here. Today I'm going to review for you the AMS 123X-X Moon Gundam. I meant to get this review out to you a couple of days ago, but hey, sometimes life happens. Now I actually built the Moon Gundam on my October 6th live stream, so if you actually want to see me putting this guy together, you can go out and check that stream. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. And during that live stream, I described the build of the Moon Gundam kind of like a snowball rolling downhill. And what I meant by that is that this kit builds momentum as you work through it. It started off kind of meh, with a rather bland, boring torso, but it eventually moved on to some much more interesting elements and some cooler designs. This kit, it's not perfect, but it does some interesting things with the HG formula, and it sets a nice precedent for future designs. Some of these things are, unlike most HGs, the Moon Gundam doesn't feature any polycaps. All the joints are plastic on plastic, and they feel good. The legs also feature a pretty decent inner frame system. It's not current MG or even RG quality, but it's nice to have it included nonetheless. And you know what? That inner frame actually does stuff. The knee features a fantastic double separation at the knee. And Bandai also included some interchangeable lenses for the head, so you can either use the opaque green piece like I did, or you can swap it out for a clear piece and modify it to include an LED at a later point. And you know what? This kit also includes some of those upgraded translucent pieces that we first saw in the RG Sazabi. I know some people didn't really like the way they look, but I appreciate Bandai just inserted like a tiny little bit of opaque white into the clear mix and just made it look much more substantial and really kind of brings out some of the detail of those clear pieces, which is otherwise lost. So, with all that said, let's dive in. We're going to start with the torso and waist. Like I mentioned before, this kit kind of starts off on a bland note. The torso is well detailed, and it's solid, and it has to be, due to the large set of funnels it has to lug around on its back. But Bandai had to sacrifice the mobility of this part of the kit just to support that funnel system. So all we're really left with is some nice surface details, and kind of an interesting chest-to-shoulder joint, but that's it. The way the shoulder-to-arm joint works is that it can be moved in two different ways. So you can either leave the joint as it is and you can swing the arm up, and you get a respectable range of motion from that. Or you can pop the entire arm out first by pulling this little gray section of the chest out, and then you can swing the arm up much higher overall. So you get a nice range of motion there, but you also have the option to maintain a sleeker look with maybe a little more stability by keeping the arm in. Now the waist is also fairly simple, but it does feature some nice cutouts for the gray, quote-unquote inner frame. And you know what? The waist also has a nice little design in it with the legs. Kind of like some of the master grade and perfect grade kits, you can swing both of the legs forward. Unfortunately, unlike those higher grade kits, you have to swing both legs together. You can't do it separately. So don't expect to pull off any kneeling poses or anything too crazy like that. Okay, so let's talk about the head. There isn't a ton to talk about here with the head design. It's well proportioned, it's detailed, it has a second kind of set of horns way at the back of the head where the rear camera is, and it's fairly reminiscent, I'd say, of the Sazabi's kind of frontal horns in that regard. One nice feature, like I already mentioned, you have the chance to swap out the eyepieces. And along with that, they actually molded the red goatee as a separate piece. Normally, the eyes and the goatee are one part, and you have to paint the red part and then mask that and then paint the eyes. It's just nice to see that those are two separate parts. I mean, it doesn't save a ton of effort, but the fact that they include it is nice nonetheless. Now let's move on down to the arms and shoulders. The shoulders are designed to fully hide the seam lines, and they include three separate colors: blue, yellow, and gray. They also include the little shoulder flappy things that we see on the Sinanju and the Sazabi. Those kits, those flaps actually hide a set of additional thrusters. Here we don't really get anything, they're just merely there for armor, but still they're kind of cool nonetheless, and they do move. Now the arms are also pretty interesting. I really like how kind of bulky they are. And the bladed part of these forearms actually includes a set of blades. They're kind of like a detachable Saikamu boomerang sort of weapon, but they can also be used for close combat, or I believe as like a beam jite, kind of like the GPO-1 and the later Banshee for catching incoming beam sabers. This kit also features 5 sets of hands, or 5 hands I should say. It includes 2 closed grasping hands for things like beam sabers, 1 hand for a beam rifle, and 2 open graspy hands. So nice set of hands included with this one. Alright, now we're getting to the good stuff. We're going to talk about the legs. So the legs actually start off kind of inauspiciously with a set of kind of narrow feet, and the feet don't really, you can't bend them at all. There's a pretty decent bend at the ankle, and they got some good side-to-side motion, but the feet themselves are static. But then what happens is we start to layer some inner frame over the top of the ankle, and we build ourselves this full inner frame that goes from that ankle joint all the way up into the hip. And it's definitely one of the best features of this kit. So the inner frame is designed in such a way to allow the knee to split at 2 points, and it's a really awesome effect. I believe we only started seeing this in master grades maybe around like 2004 or 5 maybe. It may have been even later than that with I think the master grade Strike Freedom, but it's a great effect. And it also includes some hinges on the front of the leg as well as the back and the side, which allows some of these little kind of thruster vent things to open up and move around and just add some nice dynamism to the kit. A really nice detail all around. The overall detail of the legs is also really good. We have a lot of nice scribe detail, some recessed little things, and plenty of spots where the gray inner frame pops through the armor again, which is always a really nice kind of cool effect. I really like the legs. I like the legs more than any other part of this kit, and I think we're going to see a lot of people probably kit bashing these legs onto some other builds. Definitely the highlight for this build, in my opinion, and I'm really hoping to see this on future kits. Okay, so we're going to wrap up this build with the backpack and the weapons system. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the boring part of the backpack, which is this little gray guy here. And it has these 2 sets of, well, they kind of look like the Sazabi's funnel racks, but obviously they aren't. What they are is they're actually little extendable arms that hold up the big half-moon fin funnels. And believe it or not, these are actually strong enough to hold the whole funnel system up. And you can swap these out also with a static funnel piece, which is weirdly slightly differently sized than the transformable one, but it does put a slight angle on it, kind of making the pose from the box, or one of the poses, I guess one of the iconic poses of this kit, a little easier. This little backpack also contains a beam tomahawk sword, which interestingly the manual does point out that it does have a tomahawk mode like a heat hawk, or like the Sazabi's beam tomahawks, but they don't give you the effect part for it. They only give you the effect part to do the beam sword tomahawk thing, which is the whole shebang here. But it's a nice 2-colored piece, slots into the backpack pretty well. My only concern is just due to the way this thing is slotted in there, you're going to wind up scratching your paint a little bit if you do decide to paint, so keep that in mind. And of course we couldn't wrap up this review video without talking about the actual moon part of the Moon Gundam, which are these kind of crazy interlocking fin funnel type funnels that fit on the backpack. You get a total of 8 of them. There are 4 roughly identical sets, and then you have 2 sets of 2 pairs of identical funnels as well. And they can interlock in a number of different ways, but basically what you do is you just kind of snap them together, and you'll hear this loud kind of clicky noise when you do that. And once they're locked into place, they're very secure. You can bind them together to do the half moon shape. You can fold them in half to do kind of a half slash mark? What would you even call this? But yes, it has a number of different configurable options depending on how you'd like to have it up on your kit. And amazingly, this kit is able to stand upright on its own without a stand while wearing this huge funnel thing on its back. It's rather incredible. I never expected to see this on this kit. It's really kind of astonishing that Bandai was able to make this work. Now, almost forgettably, the Moon Gundam does come with a single ranged weapon, which is it's a beam shot rifle. It's very similar in overall design to what we have with the Sazabi, although far smaller, just like everything on this kit, really. Interestingly, you know, most HG kits, the weapon is usually half of a clamshell, so regardless of how you build it, you have an ugly seam line running down the length of it. But the design of this beam shot rifle is amazingly well thought out. There is hardly any appearance of a seam line at all, and it only shows up in the barest bottom part of this thing. I was actually really impressed with this, and I hope that we see Bandai kind of doing more of these clever little design techniques to hide seam lines in future builds. Bandai also includes a action base number 5 in this kind of smoke gray color. Now, I didn't actually assemble mine just yet. I'd recently reviewed an action base 4, which includes many of the same components. I think it's great that Bandai included this with the kit. I know a lot of people would probably be gun shy about purchasing this model, seeing the huge funnel set, and probably thinking immediately that there is no way that this kit's going to be able to stand up on its own. It's going to need a stand. So it's great that Bandai threw it in there just to kind of mitigate that concern. Like I mentioned, you don't need the stand to hold up the funnels, but it's great to have it anyways. You can still put the kit into some great little flying and action poses, and it's a nice inclusion. You know what, the kit's only 30 bucks. It's a pretty large HG kit to begin with, and you get this, you know, $8 stand with it too, so you can't really complain about that. Okay, so let's wrap up this review. Now, like I mentioned, I don't think that this kit's perfect. A lot of the problems I actually have with it are pretty subjective, though, and they deal with aesthetics mostly. I am not a huge fan of the Psycho Plate, fin funnel, half moon, gigantic backpack that this kit features. I think it would look a lot better with the smaller, more compact Sazabi style fin funnel racks, similar to what is going to be on the Vargile. And considering we got the Moon Gundam, I can only assume that we're going to eventually get the Vargile, but it's probably going to be a P Bandai kit, so, you know, what are you going to do? But, you know, if someone came up to me and they asked me if I could recommend the Moon Gundam to them, my answer would probably be yes. The mobile suit itself is great. It's the perfect portent for things that are probably coming down the HG line. I'm really hoping to see some of these leg mechanics in the upcoming Sinanju Stein. And generally, you know, this thing is really detailed. Bandai thought this design out really well, and I'm pretty pleased with the mobile suit overall. So definitely, it gets a thumbs up for me if you like the mobile suit, you like the fin funnels. Even if you don't like the fin funnels, it still gets a thumbs up. If you don't like the mobile suit or the fin funnels, why are you even thinking about buying this kit? Well, in any case, I will have a link in the description of this video to a place where you can buy this kit through JoJo's Hobby and stuff. And if you use the coupon code GoodGunpla, you can save yourself $10 off this kit and just about anything else they have in stock, including P Bandai kits. So why don't you go out and treat yourself? So, till the next review, take care of yourself, guys. Dan out.